Okay. All right, chapter 27, part 2. All right. Let me reset this. There we go. My camera automatically makes a new file at about 29 minutes, okay? So I ran just a little longer than that first section there, but anyway. Yeah, I want to turn that off, start a second section here. So we'll continue on though. Chapter 27, page 437, types of airbag inflators. All right? So it says there are two different types of inflators used in airbags. So a solid fuel and a compressed gas. All right? I mentioned earlier about this stick of dynamite. That's kind of what I related it to, okay? And you know, because it was this round cylinder. It really was about that long. It was probably about an inch and a half or 2 inches in diameter. Excuse me. It is placed inside that airbag module, if you will, and has holes in it. So whenever that thing is ignited or power is given to it, you know, the chemical reaction there is just that it's supposed to just turn to gas, right? And the gas is supposed to come out and inflate the bag. What the problem was with some of those recalls was that it would explode at such a force, and some of that metal around it would also come out of there, right? And then that's what was dangerous. So we had some flying debris, some shrapnel, if you will, right, coming out of these airbags. That's why some people were injured by the bag themselves, and that's a very tragic thing that happened there. But so they had us working on these things, and some of these recalls that we did, that I mentioned earlier, replacing those things, we had a really thick, about a ½ inch thick steel apparatus to bolt that airbag in, and so it's facing the other direction, so there's steel things between you and the bag to take those inflator mods parts out and put the new ones in. Okay, had to be very careful with them once they're out of the car even, right? Because again, it doesn't take very much to set them off. It says there on that solid fuel, it only requires about 2 amps, right, of current to heat up that heating element and to start that chemical reaction, and there you go. All right? So you do have to be very careful with them when we're servicing those things. And if we're servicing some other part of the car, you know, and we're not even working on the airbags, right? You know, it's really something to think about while you're working on the cars. It really is. We'll talk about disarming and that kind of stuff later on, but two types: solid and compressed gas. Some of them already have a gas cylinder that's under pressure. Okay, it talks about 3,000 psi there, number 2, with the helium in it. All right, so two types: solid fuel and compressed gas. And I think most of the ones that I've seen had the solid fuel type. But anyway, regardless, it very quickly inflates. All right, we'll see that a little more. Top of the page there on 438, figure 27.7, it talks about the inflator module being removed from the airbag housing. So it shows one of them there being removed that's made like that. The squib inside the inflator module is the heating element that ignites the pyrotechnic gas generator that rapidly produces the nitrogen gas. All right? Okay, so once the inflator is ignited, the nylon bag quickly inflates about 30 milliseconds with nitrogen generated by the inflator. During the actual front collision accident, the driver is being thrown forward by the driver's own momentum of the steering wheel. The strong nylon bag inflates at the same time. Personal injury is reduced by spreading the stopping force over the entire upper body. So that's a good note there, that you know, our injury is reduced by having that strong nylon bag. I'm going to tell you what, those bags are strong. I've had them out before and tried to cut them with some scissors, some very good scissors for them. Those things are strong. Yeah, they're very, made like that. All right? All right. And it talks about the collapsible steering column there, okay, remains in operation. Talked about that before too already. I'm not used to talking this much. We haven't been in class. My throat's dried out on me here, so I've got Dr. Pepper and some water. All right. So it says here the bag is equipped with 2 large side vents and allows the bag to deflate immediately after inflation, right? So the bag comes out, there's 2 large holes about that big probably, on the side of the thing, and it starts deflating. So it's not like in the movies, all right? It's not like in the movies where the guy's driving around with the airbag in his face, it's all blown up and he can't see where he's going. That's just the movies, okay? That's a special made airbag for the movies, and it's not like how it really works. Okay. Now that airbag still kind of be in your way driving, but it deflates as soon as it comes out. It deflates. It's just for that impact. Okay. Timeline. That's a pretty interesting thing here. So it says here the collision occurs at 0 milliseconds, right? The sensors detect the collision at 16 milliseconds. That's pretty darn quick. Okay, let's just say that PDQ. All right, the airbag is deployed and the scene cover rips, right? There's a cover over the airbag on all of them, right? And that happens at, where'd it go? 40 milliseconds, fully deflated by 100 milliseconds, or 1/10 of a second, and then the airbag is deflated 250 milliseconds. We're adding those all together. So by a quarter of a second from start to finish, it's done. Okay? 250 milliseconds, thing's over with. All right? So, happens very quickly. But that's all you need because you move forward very quickly too in an impact. All right? Okay. All right. So then it talks about sensors there. There's really good pictures here of these sensors and how they operate with a mass inside of them that's going to roll forward and then contact the gold plate. So it shows there in 27.9 the gold plated electrical contacts, okay, in the gold plated mass ball. Sometimes it's a round ball, sometimes it can be like a roller that's long, right, and it rolls up and touches, okay, but that's how they make contact, and some of the sensors are made that way, okay. So that being said, these are impact sensitive. So if you accidentally knock it off the table 3 feet in the air, that's not good, all right. You need to check service information, and these type of sensors are all rated at how far you can drop them. How far you can drop them and they still work, all right? Because what happens to these things is they don't reset. These type, okay, again, that roll forward and touch the contacts are made to do that and then one time, all right? One time. They roll forward and they're stuck, all right? Even if they do reset, okay, because of the situation of safety here, you don't want to try to use them again, okay? These are one and done, as we say. All right, these type of sensors automatically get replaced after an accident and after cars being repaired, okay? These type, the ones with these masses in them, all right? There's some other types here too you might talk about. But these types here, one shot, they're done, you get a new one. And don't drop the new one before you put it on, okay? Service information is going to tell you the approximate distance that it can do. If you drop it 3 feet, 3.5 feet, 4 feet. Okay? So just know that that situation exists when you're servicing these. So figure 2710 shows another example of that and how that ball may roll up a little ramp and then drop into a spot where it touches the contacts. Okay? So you just need to know what kind you're working with. Alright, so that's a roll-up stainless steel ribbon type sensor. Number 2 there, figure 10. Alright, number 3, third type of sensor, is really like a decelerometer or like an accelerometer, a yaw sensor, or something that detects all this motion here and doesn't have a movable part in it, all right? It's an integral part of the device, all right? Excuse me. That's going to be an integral part of the module itself here, okay? And if you get up here and see this, you notice that the module has an arrow on it pointing the direction, right? So that means the sensor's inside of it, and that's obviously going to go to the front of the car. All right, we'll see this again a little bit later. All right. All right. So, 3 different types of sensors there, and most of them all nowadays are the integral type, and but sometimes they have to be replaced too. There again, there's a whole section in your service information about what to do after an accident and what parts have to be replaced. We'll talk about that a little bit more. All right. Everybody still with me? All right. We're only 10 minutes into this one. 2-stage airbags. All right. 2-stage airbags, page 439. The low stage and the high stage. So these things have gotten pretty smart nowadays. You used to just have one deal there and it was all. Now they have, now with these electronic sensors in them, they can gauge the force of the impact, okay, and determine whether you just need part of the airbag to go off, if you will, or all of it to go off, all right? So it can be low, high, or as it says there, both, if it's bad enough, right? So either way, the airbag has to be replaced afterwards, but still, they have gotten a little bit smarter. I mean, they first came out with these airbags, whew, man, a long time ago. Well, I know when I was in Cadillac, 1990, 2000, 2010, 30 years ago, right? 30 years ago. So we'd have them for at least 30 years, and so they've come a long way. Those old systems had those ball type sensors on them and things like that, and they were a little bit more complicated, a little harder to diagnose than they are now. We'll talk more about diagnosing, but diagnosing is really not that hard on them nowadays. Really not. Okay? So, but anyway, 2 stages or both stages at the same time. So we'll look at that a little bit more too in a minute. All right. Questions? No? All right, good. Here we go. Stay with me, all right? Stay with me. It's a beautiful day. I'm in the garage. I got all my stuff here. I'm having a great time. I'm glad to be able to talk to you guys a little bit here at least through these videos, all right? All right. Page 440, wiring. Wiring connectors are very important for the proper operation and long life. Airbag related circuits have the following features, okay? All electrical wiring connectors and conduit for airbags are colored yellow, all right? Even this little piece right here. Notice it's got a yellow piece on it there, if you can see that right there. Okay, we'll demonstrate that more in a minute. Now this part here is not yellow, but this part is. Every connector and sometimes the conduit that they're in is going to be yellow, okay? Just caution, right? Be careful around that. To ensure proper connection, the inflator module in the steering wheel, the coil assembly, a coil assembly is used in the steering column. We'll look at this more in a minute when we look at all the different components in a separate video. But we have a coil here, so we have a in and an out, all right? Or in and an out connection here. So we have a complete connection, continuous connection, a better word there, instead of using a slip ring. Okay, we'll just show you a slip ring here in a minute and show you what the difference is with that. But we have a constant connection between the airbag and the control module, okay, what we're saying there. So even when you turn the steering wheel, there's a ribbon of wire, a ribbon inside this that turns with it so that there's always contact there. It always goes through that ribbon of wire and is there. I'll show you what that looks like here more in a minute. Inside the yellow plastic airbag connectors are gold-plated terminals to prevent corrosion. So they use the gold-plated terminals there. So this is a SIR coil or a clock spring, as we call it sometimes, he mentions there. Most airbag systems also contain a diagnostic unit. I would say all of them do, okay? That often include an auxiliary power supply, which is used to provide current to the inflator airbag if the battery is disconnected from the vehicle in a collision. I always thought that was kind of strange, okay? Given the fact that this, we just talked about the fact that the airbag goes off in 250 milliseconds, it's done, okay? So that would mean that the power supply in the crash, i.e. the battery, would have to be disconnected before that time limit came. You know, like the crash happened and it ripped the battery out of the car, that would have to happen in like 10 milliseconds or 100 milliseconds before the airbag went off. That'd be pretty quick. I guess it could happen, okay? But all of them have a reserve in them. That's why in the old systems, they used to tell you to disconnect the negative battery cable and wait 10 minutes. Okay? Because that power unit in the module can stay powered up for 10 minutes. Nowadays, we'll see, when we do our task sheet 86 here, we'll see that on that particular car we're going to do here, it's only 1 minute now. Okay? It just keeps it there for 1 minute. That's plenty of time. But anyway. All right. Okay, so top of page 440, it talks a little bit about the dual stage airbag caution. All right, so there are the smart bags we talked about, things like that. Always handle the deployed airbags carefully, because maybe only one side of it's deployed is what he's saying there, okay? So there's still a charge in it. So, fact is, always handle airbags cautiously. But it's pretty easy to tell if it's a dual stage or a single stage, and I'll show you that here in the next video. Show you what you got. All right, airbag diagnostic tools and equipment. All right, so your service information is going to be key here. So I've got service information pulled up here on my computer, and under supplemental inflatable restraint, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 different sections, okay, that cover this thing in detail. Description of operation, that's always important, we talk about that. Component location, system operational check, okay. Airbag safety precautions, adjustments, yeah. Disabling and activating the system, disposal procedures, okay. Post-collision inspection. See, that's important. We talked about that before. After a collision, sometimes, you know, not all the airbags have gone off. You know, maybe some of them have, some of them haven't. And so there are things to check after a collision as far as codes are concerned. Some airbag modules, that is the control module, can be reused more than once. Some of them can't be, okay. You're going to check that steering column and see if the shear bolts have moved or if it's collapsed, things like that. So post-collision inspection, there's a procedure for that for every vehicle. Obviously removal and installation of components, diagnostics, diagnostic test, wire repair, okay, torque specification and wiring diagrams. So there's a lot of information on these systems that you're going to look at in service information excuse me, if you're diagnosing and repairing an inflatable restraint system. All right? All right. So, coming on down there, it says at the bottom of that first paragraph, it says, follow exact manufacturer's recommendation procedures for accessing and erasing airbag codes. I'm glad he put that word exact in there. Okay, you want to follow the manufacturer's recommendations exactly as stated. Okay, again, this is a safety situation here. Diagnosis and service airbag systems usually require some or all of the following items, right? A digital meter, an airbag simulator, often called a load tool, okay? If you have those, and you work at a dealership, sometimes they're necessary, okay? So, I mentioned before that the resistance in that airbag is only like 2 to 3 ohms, right? 2.5 ohms. So what they've got is, if you've got a code for an open inflator module, okay, you can take that airbag module off, that inflator module off, substitute a load tool, right? Plug it in, it substitutes that resistance, and then see if that code goes away, is what it is, okay? If you've got that handy or available, then use it, okay? Because you don't want to put an ohm meter across that load, in this case, all right? We know that they measure about 2.3 ohms or 2.5 ohms, but we don't want to use an ohm meter to check that. Now, how do we know that's what they read? Well, the book will tell you that sometimes, and our scan tool, because it says here to use a scan tool next, right? Scan tools will read and display the resistance of that deployment loop that we talked about earlier, okay? That deployment loop to every airbag on the car, it'll show you what the resistance is of that loop. You can see it on the scan tool, okay? So that is the best way to see what that loop is reading, okay? And if it's out of specs and you've got a schematic, then you can look at each connection, okay, and see if the resistance is there. Unplug it and plug it back in. Sometimes is all it takes, okay? Very seldom nowadays is it the airbag itself. It's usually one of the connections in between the module and the airbag, okay? But do not, and I'll say this again, and I'll say it again, do not use an ohm meter to check the resistance of a deployment loop, unless you want to see the airbag go off. Forgive me for my laughing there, but if you remember how an ohm meter works, Ohm's law, but the ohm meter side of it sends out a voltage, measures the voltage drop, and calculates resistance. It sends out a voltage, right? So if you use a voltmeter to check resistance of a deployment loop, that might be enough. I'm going to have to test that one of these days. It might be enough to deploy an airbag, okay? So we don't do it that way. We use an ohm meter to check the wiring, okay, by itself, with both ends unplugged, okay? We do not use an ohm meter to check a deployment loop resistance. No way, no how, never. Don't do that, all right? Sound like my friend down the street with his motorcycle just fired up. All right. Okay, airbag system tester, whatever that might be. Excuse me, vehicle specific test harness. Okay, whatever the manufacturer might have for that. Excuse me. 2713 has a real good picture there of what a system might look like. Okay, I've got another one here we're going to do on our task sheet. Moving on. Top of page 442, figure 2714 is one of those SIR column load tools. See, it has the connectors in it. It has that specific 2.5 ohms or whatever built into it. You can take that airbag module off, plug this in instead, and see if your code goes away. That was really just how they used to do it a long time ago. They didn't start putting that deployment loop resistance in the scan tool. I don't remember exactly when it was, but they didn't always have that, okay? In the Tech 2 and so forth, in the older models, they didn't always have that there. Nowadays it is, probably the last, I'm going to say at least the last 10 years, it's in the scan tool now. But, and that may vary between manufacturers. I'm just talking about General Motors, okay? So, yeah, those load tools are handy, but I know when I left the dealership, we had a box back there. It wasn't this size box anymore. It was about this size box, like a suitcase, full of all these different connectors. And you know how that goes. It seemed like you never could find the connector you needed to fit the one you had, because, yeah, they're not all the same like everything else. You got 400 different connectors because of all these different year models, different manufacturers of the parts, etc., etc., etc. Okay? So, once upon a time, that airbag in the steering wheel, they all had one connector, just like that picture there, but they're not like that anymore. Okay. All right. Precautions. Let's talk about these real quick here. All right. Actually, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop right here. Looks like I'm at about 25 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and stop right here at precautions. Or 3. And maybe we can do it in the next, finish it up in the next section here. Okay. So I'm going to stop right here, take a break at precautions on page 442. Stop, reset. Okay? I'm going to turn this off and be back in a minute.